So, all right, the last video we're gonna close up here. I sent this to. Did you both get a chance to view this? It's Senator John Kennedy talking.
Yep.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, Senator John Kennedy is from Alabama, I think, or Louisiana. I forget which one he's from.
Louisiana.
Louisiana, and he speaks like he's Foghorn Leghorn, even though that's not his actual voice. If you look up clips from him from 25 years ago, he has no accent at all. Well, it's a slight accent, but now he's dialed it up to 11 to, appeal to his voting base. But he was interviewing Maya Berry from the American Arab Institute, and it's the worst. John, what did you say when I text this to you? What did you say? I can't remember.
I forget. I said, Jesus Christ! This made me gasp.
Yeah,
this legitimately made me gasp.
All right, let's see what he's got to say.
You support Hamas, do you not?
Oh my God.
Senator, oddly enough, I'm going to say thank you for that question because it demonstrates the purpose of our hearing today in a very
Let's start first
way.
with a yes or no.
Hamas is a foreign terrorist organization that I do not support, but you asking the executive director of the Arab American Institute that question very much puts the focus on the issue of hate in our country.
Well, I got your answer, and I appreciate it. What is the you support Hezbollah too, don't you?
Hezbollah.
Again, I find this line of questioning extraordinarily disappointing,
Is that a
Senator.
no?
That
Or
you
a
have
yes?
you have Arab American constituents that you represent
is
in
that
your great state.
Yes, ma'am, I understand that, but my time's limited, and I apologize. But is that a yes or a no?
Yes or no question to do I support Hezbollah? The answer is I don't support violence, whether it's Hezbollah, Hamas, or any other entity that invokes
You
it.
can't
So
bring
no, sir.
yourself to say no, can you?
No, I can say no. I can say yes.
But
What
you
I can
haven't.
say is
You just
your
can't
line
make
of
yourself do
questioning.
it. Do you
Senator.
support or oppose Iran and their hatred of Jews?
I have to pause it. All right, I got to pause it right there. Do you support Iran? What kind of fucking question is that? Like, you can even as absurd as the first two was, like, do you support Hezbollah? Do you support the country of Iran? Like, what does that even mean? That's just
like it's just like they're exist like what they're a country,
right?
Like, what do you mean by support them in doing what?
And doing what? And then he goes to clarify in their hatred of the Jews, which that was kind
I
of
guess
the
no,
point of
bro.
any of
In that
these
case, no.
yeah, like okay, no, I don't think I do actually.
Again,
man.
I'm going to emphasize Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, none of them is going to
You can't bring yourself to say no, can
Sir,
you?
I don't support.
It's real simple.
Excuse me. I'm going to,
Ian,
if I may, as a Muslim woman, sir, I'm going to tell you I do not support Iran. But what I will tell you is that this conversation.
I'm running out of time. I'm sorry.
I feel so bad for her.
You called our decision to cut funding. You called our decision to cut fund. Well, first, what's the United Nations Relief and Works Agency?
It's UNRWA, which is the institution that exists to provide services and aid to the nearly 6 million Palestinian refugees.
And you called our decision to cut funding for them, quote, an incredible moral failure, close quote.
That is absolutely correct. But again, I would suggest that conversation is about foreign policy.
We did that because 9 UNRWA staff members were fired for actually helping Hamas on October 7th. Isn't that the case?
I don't believe that that's correct in terms
Let me ask you one more time. You support Hamas, don't you? You support UNRWA and Hamas, don't you?
Sir,
Please. Hamas.
I think it's exceptionally disappointing that you're looking at an Arab American witness before you and saying you support Hamas.
You know what's disappointing to me?
I do not support Hamas.
Bring yourself
I do
to
not
say
support Hamas.
You don't
or
support UNRWA. You don't support Hamas. You don't.
I was very clear in my support for UNRWA.
Hezbollah, and you don't support Iran. You should hide your head in a bag.
All right, John, your thoughts on the Honorable John Kennedy?
Yeah, that was so I saw that I saw like whispers of that before you sent me the video. And so I was like I didn't realize just how fucking atrocious it was. That sounded like something you see in a biopic.
Oh, it does.
Like the fucking civil rights.
It
era.
does. You're
Like,
right. It's exactly like that. Holy
and
shit.
you're like, oh, I can't believe how racist the fucking senators were. That was one of the most like it's
accents and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Every part of that from no, I don't support it. You can't bring yourself to say you don't support it. No, that's what I just fucking said multiple times.
Yeah.
To the look on her face, and I say this as someone who's never been disadvantaged by my race, gender, ethnicity, or anything in my fucking life. I can clearly recognize the look on her face as a person who is used to being in a position where they're being spoken down to like that and having to contain themselves. And it was so uncomfortable to watch, to just see the position he was putting her in, and that dude just gets to be a fucking senator. And then he ends it with the fucking cherry on top. You should put your head in a bag. Just straight, blatant, no fucking second guessing about it. That's fucking racist. It's insane. And then you support UNRWA. Yeah, bro, I support the United Nations. What the fuck are you talking about? You think just because it has a fucking acronym and I say it next to Hamas that people are going to be like, oh, and you're a Muslim woman, so this must be a terrorist organization? Oh my God.
Yeah, there's things we can laugh about. There's things, I make this distinction of some things in U.S. politics where it's haha, that's, I can joke about how, crazy it is. And then there's things like this where I can't even bring myself to laugh about the absurdity of it, because I see that video and I'm like, this is just really depressing. These are professionals, right? These are all people that are professionals in politics. They are people that were voted in by us, right? We talk about ideas of how the democracy is supposed to serve us and how our politicians are supposed to serve us, and they're supposed to be bastions of honesty and respect and fucking truth. And seeing this interaction played out on the world stage, on the political stage, in the same way it would be played out seeing if I were in fucking Kentucky right now and I were accosted by a racist homeowner. It's the exact same framework. Is fucking terrifying, dude. It means that top to bottom, dude, there's nowhere in this country you can go where you will not be faced with blatant, real good old fashioned 1940s fucking civil rights era racism. There's nowhere in this country they can go, and that sucks to see.
Yeah, you know what is the most depressing thing about that, that entire grim spectacle that we just witnessed, is that John Kennedy will never pay the price for that. Never. Yeah. He will suffer zero consequences. In fact, he'll probably gain popularity for it because of his constituency. Yeah. And so this is it's a John Kennedy problem, that he's clearly an awful human being. And people, we talk all the time are these folks stupid or evil? And the reality is it doesn't matter if they're stupid or evil, if they're doing it with malicious intent or doing it out of genuine belief that this is the best thing for society and for the nation. The end result is still the same. And yeah, that's true for the politicians, but the problem with the Republican Party are Republican voters. That's the problem. People like to pretend that that's not the case, and it's oh no, that's it's kind of like with Donald Trump, kind of we were talking about earlier, and that everyone wonders how Trump mystified all these people. It's well, no, they like who Donald Trump is because he is who they are. And that's what John Kennedy is. I guarantee you there are millions of people in Louisiana right now watching that and saying, get him, John, get him. Oh, that's right. That's what we need. We need to show these Arabs what's going on here. And the particulars don't matter. And this is what goes back, we were talking about earlier, is that you can lay out all the details here. You can lay out just because these people were accused of helping Hamas, which, listen, we condemn Hamas here at the left wing, just so you know, this is our official stance, but just so everybody knows. However, when it comes to Palestinian rights, Hamas is essentially the only game in town. Like it is, like they are the government there. And so, listen, if you want to work with helping Palestinians, you kind of have to help work with Hamas the same fucking way Donald Trump worked with the Taliban when he was working the deal to exit. That you have to do this. So, like I don't know the details on that, but like working with Hamas can mean 1,000 different things, and you know they want to weaken them anyway. So going after that doesn't really have a whole lot of value, and which is why like these absurd questions like, do you support Iran? I mean, it's like, well, what are you supposed to get from that? He tacks on, you know, and their hatred of Jewish people, as if that's an inseparable to like non-overlapping
Every person in Iran hates Jewish people.
Yeah. And it's just like, this is one thing that we talked about on the last show, Ate, was that like with this sort of rhetoric becoming acceptable in polite conversation where it would have just been, you know, hidden in the corners or, you know, filtered through 5 or 6 different euphemisms, and that people are coming out and saying it right now, that honestly, no matter who wins this election, it is going to be a rough time for this nation for the next decade or two. It's going to take a generation or two at least before everyone dies off who was convinced that Trump actually won the 2020 election, let alone like that subset that believes in like we throw it around a lot, but legitimate Nazi shit. Like I don't know like if there's an easy way out of this.
No, I don't think there is. I don't think the best case scenario is that, you know, Kamala wins. But even, you know, in the sense that in the instance of Kamala winning, this is something that leftist Twitter and leftist TikTok particularly has been really infighting over. It's the fact that Kamala winning and saving democracy, you know, which is, you know, by all accounts a good thing and something that we should all be heavily invested in seeing happen. There's a lot of fears that really kind of is just staving off America's like constant rise, or not rise, but fall into fascism. Like that's just more so putting a band-aid on a very, very, very serious issue about American politics and the way we as a country are starting to identify ourselves, right? Like I kind of agree with that idea that Kamala being president, a good thing, sure. But and I've seen even like House Democrats will say things that Republicans were saying a couple decades ago, that even the Democrats have moved right. Like immigration specifically is what has me really afraid for this country, is that the Democrats have pretty much moved to Republican viewpoints on immigration, and including Kamala, including even Biden, including Obama, including all these other like socialist, you know, the ones that Republicans would call socialist. So yeah, it's a skid. I have no idea how we even get back to a point in U.S. politics where things are even remotely civil. Like I have no idea.
And to just, you know, circle back to what I said earlier, like I agree, the immigration thing is really, really starting to appear to be the Jews of this fascist movement. Like it's
absolutely
so clear and obvious. And the really like terrible fucking problem with that is there's a hell of a lot more immigrants than there ever has been Jewish people. Like the scope of the target is so huge. It's mortifying, and it's so easy. It fits the blood and soil rhetoric even better, because it can really just be anyone. You know, like it doesn't matter. Do they come here legally? Who gives a shit? You know, as long as they're not what we think an American is, doesn't matter. We saw the fucking video that got thrown around that Ian Miles Chong originally started the Haitians eating cats and dogs lie with. It was just a black American. You know, like it's just a random black woman like that was born in America. Like it can be anyone. And they're literally telling us, we don't care. We're going to define this however we want. The actual definition of illegal alien doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter at all.
We're going to define it however we want. We're going to verbatim tell this to you. And we're going to put in our party platform that we are going to deport Hamas radicals protesting on college campuses. Not even just illegal immigrants. And we know what they mean by Hamas radicals. They don't mean members of Hamas. They mean anyone supporting Palestine. They've been very clear about this, and it's in the Republican Party platform. I try and like talk to conservatives in good faith, but when it comes to this topic, you can't, because they cannot argue in good faith that this isn't going on, because they've lost all plausible deniability. And that is why a lot of Republicans are mad at Laura Loomer, because she's just saying it. And we're a stone's throw away from JD Vance saying it.
Oh, 100%.
We're gonna be there very soon. As soon as they have power, they're going to say whatever the fuck they want, and they're going to do whatever the fuck they want, and they're going to define the people that they're deporting however the fuck they want.
Well, that's what Vivek Ramaswamy figured out when he talked to Ann Coulter, that one conversation where she said that, it actually is important that, white people, specifically of British descent, have an oversized influence in American culture. She came right out and said it. It's what a lot of them think. But, to them at this moment, they can't really say it out loud, which, John, like I said, this is why it's very difficult for me to do what you just described and argue with conservatives, because it is impossible to have a good faith conversation with most conservatives. Like, it is absolutely impossible, because they will not admit the actual core of their beliefs. They keep trying to dance around it and trying to pin you down. It's like, oh, well, we're not saying, black folk are genetically inferior. It's just the culture, just stuff that they hide behind that is nonsense. And it's just, I don't know. And that's just one issue, like, let alone like, January 6th or fascism or, and it's just that, and also even efficacy. So, for example, you mentioned a few times that, the Haitian immigrants rescued Springfield, Ohio. The population was shrinking. Young people were moving away. There was an opioid crisis. No one, it's not that no one wanted to work anymore. There was no one to work. They needed these people. If you deport all those people, you've killed the city of Springfield. Extrapolate that across 50 states where, if this plan were to work, which it really can't honestly, there's no logistical way to deport 20 million people in a few years. You would destroy the United States economy. Like, it can't even work if you wanted it to.
DJ, there is. This is why it happens in the way that it happens, because there's only one logical answer to that question. There is one final solution to that.
Yeah, I see where you're going with this.
Again, like, it's that's why I'm this is the crucible. Like, this is where it either goes one way or the other. And my hope against all hopes is that Donald Trump is just fucking incompetent if he wins. But like, if he isn't, that's the only way this goes.
Yeah, it is kind of heartening to see that. There's two things that are really fortunate about this. Is that one is that Donald Trump is repulsive to the majority of the population. That is way too many people. Yeah, way too many people are fine with them, but the majority still do reject them. And the safeguards in place did stop him last time. Now, he could circumvent that. He's had 4 years to work on it, but the military, the Justice Department, the Attorney General and stuff, the Vice President, there were a lot of stopgaps in place to stop him doing it. Now, of course,
this time.
I know, of course, he's learned his lesson. He's like, okay, I got to find better sycophants this time. And so, it's just that, I don't know. It is kind of dark.
Like I said it when he picked JD. Like, the reason he picked him is because that is the path he's decided to go down. Like, it's the only logical reason why one would pick JD Vance of someone with better electoral odds, because he knows he can't have another Mike Pence if he wants to do the things he wants to do.
God.
Yeah. I think when we talk about the safeguards in terms of American democracy, those were a lot of the safeguards that I was expecting to stop Trump the first time that he fucking found a way to finesse his way out of, like asking another country to interfere in your government's politics, and then getting impeached for that, and then not being fucking convicted is nasty work. How is that even?
Because the thing we mentioned, I say this all the time: impeachment is useless. Impeachment is a useless tool. Like, there is no scenario I can possibly imagine in which 2/3 of the Senate will vote to convict the president. It's not going to happen. Like, Andrew Johnson was one vote shy of being convicted. If we couldn't get rid of Andrew Johnson,
who committed genocide.
we can't get rid. No, not Jackson. Andrew Johnson. Andrew Johnson.
Andrew Johnson.
Yeah, Andrew Johnson.
My bad.
Yeah, he's
I was thinking. I was like, I don't remember Andrew Jackson.
They didn't even impeach Andrew Jackson. Yeah, for that.
I was like, genocide. They're not impeaching presidents over genocide.
Well, yeah, that's because that was an impeachable offense. Because the Supreme Court said that Andrew Jackson wanted to. We had to end the show, but Andrew Jackson wanted to remove the Seminole Indians from Florida, and the Supreme Court said, "Well, Mr. President, you don't have the authority to do that. You're not going to do a trail of tears from Florida to Oklahoma on these people." No, it was part one. That hadn't happened. And he goes, he says, "Yes, I am." And because what he said is the Supreme Court made the decision, let them build an army to stop me. And he just did it anyway. And we didn't impeach him for it. So, yeah. If we couldn't get rid of Andrew Jackson, wasn't impeached. Andrew Johnson was impeached and we didn't get rid of him. No one's getting convicted. It's just not going to happen. And real quick, before we close up here, I wanted to comment on this. Kyle said there was a quote about the lesser of two evils that went something like, they only care about evil so far as it's useful in cutting out opposition. I just wanted to reference that because the lesser of two evil quotes kind of bugs me in a lot of ways, because in an election, every election is the choice of the lesser of two evils. Like unless there is a perfect person that exists somehow, it's going to be lesser of two evils no matter what. So I mean, I get what people are trying to say, but we're human beings. That's how it goes. So, all right, we ready to wrap this up, fellas?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you remember how this goes. John, I'll pitch it to you and you plug your content and we'll move on.
All right, guys, you made it to the end of this episode. This has been a wonderful, I don't even know what you just watched because we talked about so many topics today, but I hope you had a good time. If you did, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. And if you liked our guest, the wonderful Destructo Hugo, like we had multiple comments saying today, Destructo, where can people find you?
Yeah, man. Thanks once again for having me on. I had literally messaged. I don't know if TJ told you, but I was like, I haven't argued. I haven't just ranted about politics in a while, bro. Let me get on the fucking podcast. What am I doing? I fucking love it here. And so if you wanna, this is really because I've tailored my content now to be more sort of like cinema focused. So this is one of the places where I get to just speak unabashedly about politics. But if you would like to see my left wing centered takes on art, cinema, TV, pop culture, and things of that nature, then you can find me on TikTok at Destructo Jugo. You can also find some of my more longer form videos on YouTube at Destructo Jugo, and you can find me as well on Instagram, in the same name.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ate. We appreciate you coming to the show. Folks, we appreciate you watching us. This show does not suck, but if you watch one of our segments, you'll find out about an associate of Trump who absolutely does. So we'll catch you guys next time. See you around. Thanks for joining.